Hello, everybody. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Byron Nelson DFS Tactics show. Got a lot to get into. We've got to see what the forecast is for McKinney, Texas, how it's going to affect the field, what kind of pivots we want this week, who we're going to fade away from, all of that good stuff. Your lineup questions, player A versus player B, anything else that you want to talk about. So I'm pretty excited. It's going to be a fun show. If you did not check social media, I mentioned that I have two pretty darn spicy 6K plays for you all. So let's get straight into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. They are the best resource out there. It's going to make you a much smarter gambler, much better DFS player. There's a bunch of great content and great tools out there, no doubt about it. I just think Fantasy National is going to give you the best bang for your buck. So go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description to the video, there are links to all of my social media. This is Twitter and Instagram, where I posted research around the Byron Nelson earlier this week. So if you did not see that, give me a follow at those links below. I mentioned that posted something about an hour ago on social media about my 6K play, so trying to get a little bit more active on there. Twitter is also where I post my daily 3 up, 3 down for DFS baseball. Today, a little bit rough, but I had a pretty good sweat going last night, moved all the way up into third at one point in one baseball GPP. Ended up getting into the top 15, so a successful night. Been on a little bit of a good run lately, so if you would like to see my daily selections for baseball, give me a follow over at Twitter. Twitter is also where I post my betting cards for the PGA tournament each week. So if you would like to see the betting card every week, give me a follow over there. And then finally, we're live. Chat's open. Again, what questions do you have for the Byron Nelson? How much do you think the forecast is going to affect the field? Are you factoring it in once we go there right after this intro? Who are you pivoting to? Who are you fading away from? What kind of lineup questions do you have? So jump in chat. Looking forward to it. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 AT&T Byron Nelson. And as promised, we are going to start the show as we always do on a Wednesday evening over at Windfinder. Today looked pretty good. I think it is raining down there at the moment, but look at tomorrow. We have a pretty severe advantage for the morning wave. We have very calm winds in the morning. Apparently it did rain today, and it still might be raining in McKinney, Texas. So if that continues, then the course is going to be very, very soft. So it'll play a little bit longer, but this course has always been easy. So the morning wave will just have free reign. But if you see Friday, all windy all day, lots of severe gusts. So Friday looks pretty equal in terms of a split for the field. So with that, if one part of the field has a severe advantage on one day and the other day is pretty darn square, this is a pretty significant AM, PM favor I see. So in my own lineups that I've been creating, I've been putting a lot of weight into whether a player is in the Thursday morning wave. As you can see there, Friday is pretty square in terms of AM versus PM, but you have a pretty significant advantage for the morning wave tomorrow. So I see a pretty significant advantage for the Thursday AM, Friday PM half of the draw. And then for the weekend, Saturday looks awful, to be honest. Just a lot of rain, more wind. Sunday looks pretty windy. So the players are going to be dealing with wind all week. But there was a pretty clear advantage for the Thursday morning wave. So normally we go straight to Fantasy National. However, with a clear wave advantage that I see, let's bring up the PGA Tour leaderboard and get a look at the players that seemingly have the good part of the draw. So the first tee time off tomorrow, 6:50 local time, 7:50 Eastern. James Hahn, Saying You'll Know, Henrik Norlander, C.T. Pan, Aaron Baddeley, and Sung Moon Bae. That's the first group out, so clearly they have the best conditions. But if we keep scrolling down a little bit, let's see if we can't find some notable names here. Christian Bezadenhout is with a very, very good draw. Nate Lashley I've talked about a little bit this week. Doug Gim, Cameron Champ always has the length. So he definitely won't be bothered by the fact that the course will play a little bit longer. Our first feature group of the tournament, Mackenzie Hughes, Adam Scott, and Minwoo Lee. So they are on the good side of the draw. Tom Kim, Hideki, and Tyrrell Hatton are on the good side of the draw. Luke List, Matt Kuchar, Aaron Wise, Scott Stallings. I imagine that's another feature group. We have Adam Hadwin, David Lipsky, Kevin Chappell. Let's see, scrolling a little bit on further down. That probably is the end of the big names in terms of who has the best half of the draw. Don't want to go through the entire field, but players that are on the bad end of the draw seemingly. Let's use the feature groups here. So Davis Riley, Seamus Power, Tom Hoagie, Scotty Scheffler, K.H. Lee, Jason Day, Siwoo Kim, Taylor Montgomery, Richard S. Johnson, who got into the field thanks to Jordan Spieth's withdrawal. So there's a look at the players who don't have a good draw this week, or at least the feature groups that don't have a good draw this week. I will keep the leaderboard up, move it over here off to the side, just in case there are some more questions later and I need some quick reference for it. But that reminds me, as we move to Fantasy National, that there have been 4 more field changes since Monday evening's show. The 4 players that have withdrawn: Mark Hubbard, Alex Smalley, JJ Spawn, and Hank Lebiota. So do make note that if you submitted lineups early, or if you had those players in your player pool preparing lineups for this evening, remove those players. Mark Hubbard, Alex Smalley, JJ Spawn, and Hank Lebiota, they have withdrawn. All right. Let me center the camera again very quickly here. All right. Because we have seen just the sheer amount of wind that is in the forecast this week, I have went ahead and filtered for moderate and windy conditions since the beginning of 2021. Our top performers in the field this week: Scotty Scheffler, Seamus Power, Adam Scott, Aaron Wise, Jason Day, Christian Bezadenhout, Maverick McNeely, Adam Hadwin, Charlie Hoffman, and Hideki. Quite a few withdrawals up here. Of course, Jordan Spieth earlier in the week, Alex Smalley, who I just mentioned, Lonto Griffin was early in the week. So there's a look at your top wind players, and I'll scroll down to about the top 30, 35 or so for you. A few more names: Tyrrell Hatton, Ben Griffin, Matt Kuchar, Tom Hoagie, Scott Stallings, Adam Long, S.H. Kim, Siwoo Kim, and on down. As you can see there, give these players a pretty significant boost in your rankings since there is so much wind in the forecast for the tournament this week. The other end of the spectrum, these players have not played well in the wind in the past 2+ years or so. Ted Potter, Nick Watney, Richard S. Johnson, Andrew Landry, Martin Traynor, Jim Herman, Wesley Bryan, Sung Kang. Trying to find maybe some notable names here. Michael Kim, who played very, very well last week at Wells Fargo. Dylan Wu has not played very well in the wind. Harry Higgs, Carl Yuan, a little bit fewer rounds, only 8 rounds for him. Matty Schmid. So there's a look at the players that have not played well in the wind since the start of 2021. Give these players a pretty significant downgrade in your rankings and in your considerations. but still the biggest factor this week, even with the amount of wind in the forecast, this course is easy. I still don't see any reason to believe it won't play easy again this year. So, since the beginning of 2021, your top players when around has been easy. Tom Kim, Seamus Power, Scotty Scheffler, Tom Hoagie, Taylor Montgomery, Mav McNeely, Matt Kuchar, Aaron Wise, Jason Day, and K.H. Lee. Scroll down a little bit more for you all. A few more names here. Mark Hubbard, Harry Hall, Christian Bezuidenhout, Davis Thompson, Henrik Norlander, Ben Griffin. So there's a look at your top players when around has been easy. And the other end of the spectrum, players that have not played well when it's easy. Kevin Stadler, Ryan Brim, Max McGreevy, Michael Kim again, Ted Potter, MJ Duffy, Nick Watney, Bill Hawes, Chad Ramey, Grayson Murray, Andrew Landry, Jimmy Walker, Minwoo Lee. Granted, it's only 7 rounds, but he has not played well when it's easy. Kevin Chappell, so on and so forth. And you can see that group there. All right, let's just go ahead and go straight to the mixed condition model. This mixed condition model came together pretty quickly, pretty easily, considering we looked at my mixed condition model from last year. While it wasn't a great results based mixed condition model, the data really has been pretty darn straightforward here at TPC Craig Ranch the first 2 years that Byron Nelson has been here. So 15% in strokes gained approach. It is the most important shot type in golf, period, in my opinion. Certainly here at TPC Craig Ranch, and especially with the very soft conditions tomorrow, especially tomorrow morning, guys are just going to be able to flag hunt. So 15% in stroke gain approach, I would not blame anyone if they wanted to put 20% in here. 5% in strokes gained putting on bent surfaces since the beginning of 2021. And this is where I'm going to take you on a bit of a tangent. I was in contact with a friend of mine, mentioned a few times now on the channel, Gabe. We had a little bit of a back and forth, or at least I posed a question to him on his Twitter about how he approaches putting surfaces, speeds, and all that stuff, because I explained to you all Monday that there have been 4 rounds where the speed has been listed as average, 4 rounds where the speed has been listed as fast. So did we want to filter just fast and average bent greens? Did we want to look at all bent? Because if we're bringing in all bent, like I ended up doing, we're going to be bringing in the Masters, the Memorial, the BMW has had a few events where it was classified as lightning bent. The 3M, I believe, has also had a few. So it was an interesting question that I posed to Gabe. He answered as he could on Twitter, and then we had a little bit of a discussion, off the I can't say off the record. I don't know, off of Twitter. In the end, putting is not going to be a huge factor in terms of the weight this week. You can see I only have it at 5%. But it brings up a very, very intriguing thought, that how you want to look at a certain stat and all of that. So this is 5% of the mixed condition model that I'm not very confident in. I'm just not. As a statistician, I don't like looking at lightning speed greens in this data set, because I know for a fact these greens won't be lightning. But it is what it is. Don't think there's going to be a way to be perfect in gathering the exact data you want, because then your sample size is going to be too narrow. Hey P, good evening. Thanks for jumping in chat. I haven't seen you all week, so hopefully all has been well. You caught me right in the middle of a semi-rant slash semi rabbit hole evaluation or discussion of how to gather and look at data. So I'm sure that was a fun or curious opening or interesting way to begin the show for you. But thanks for jumping in chat. Always appreciate it. Hopefully you are ready for the AT&T Byron Nelson this week. But that is my rant or explanation onto why I only have 5% in putting. I'm not very confident in it. Why I'm using bent. I think this could be a little bit weak, but we'll have to see. And putting's a fickle statistic as it is. So there's my explanation on that. But I did want to make sure I had some putting in here, because putting is pretty darn valuable at TPC Craig Ranch. So there you go. That is what I have for you in terms of putting. And I wanted to give credit to Gabe, considering I reached out to him on his social media. He was kind enough to take some time out to respond, and then engage in more of a conversation off of Twitter. 10% in opportunities gained on long courses, and you could absolutely look at this on easy or in easy rounds. But I thought that the long course filter would be more appropriate for opportunities gained, kind of a hedge with the 200 plus proximity. This course is long, and it's probably going to play even longer tomorrow because it's going to be pretty soft with the rain they've gotten today. So I needed to see players who were pretty darn good on long courses, even though I still think the course is going to play easy this week. I wanted to see who gives themselves the most opportunities on long courses. So 10% there. I'm going to skip this for a second because I'm talking about long courses. That also applied with good drives gained. Again, a good drive gained, at least by definition in Fantasy National, is a player has hit the fairway or they've hit the green in regulation if they miss the fairway. So they're at least not so wayward that they're having to chip out and then play back in, or they're good enough with their irons from the rough that they can still hit the green in regulation. So I wanted to see some metrics on long courses. I felt like good drives gained opportunities was a pretty good way to look at that, especially considering the forecast that we have in store. But the biggest part of my mixed condition model, and I've said it all week, birdies are better gained when a round is easy. TPC Craig Ranch is easy. This is a birdie fest. The winning score has been minus 25 and minus 26. I mean, it's just a birdie fest. Minus 20 didn't even get into the top 10 last year. Players are going to have to go low, and I added the easy to par filter because the course is easy. So 20% birdies are better gained when a round's easy. 5% greens on long courses. Again, you could absolutely look at greens when it's easy, but considering the forecast, it's going to be soft. Guys are going to need to be able to hit longer approach shots and still hit the green or hold the green. So I went with long courses, and I was more comfortable using long courses for good drives and greens as a little bit of a hedge or additional percentage, or kind of additional hidden percentage, if you will, because I only put 200 plus procs at 5%. We talked about it Monday evening. Proximity is the weakest of my analytical stats for golf. I don't see a whole lot of correlation generally, but the majority of approach shots come from 200 plus here. So all of this was a little bit of a way to kind of helped this up a little bit more than just 5%. 5% in total procs. We saw some pretty big numbers in prior leaderboards in total procs. So I actually have 10% in two different proximities here. I don't like it, but it is what it is. These greens are massive, so the players that are more apt to dial in their irons are going to give themselves more opportunities, better chances to make their birdies. Obvious statements are obvious, but it is what it is. No par threes. We saw that throughout the week. They're just not important here at all. 5% in all par fours, 5% in par fours 450 to 500 yards. This is the range that has the most holes here at TPC Craig Ranch. Par fours, slightly important. They've been pretty inconsistent the past 2 years. Last year they were very important. The first year they weren't at all. So I don't feel comfortable putting a lot of weight into it. So 5% there, 5% in the most important range. And then finally, probably the second most important statistic or factor here, maybe third, depending on how you look at strokes gained approach. Par fives. You've got to take advantage of the par fives here. So 15% in par fives. And there's my mixed condition model for the AT&T Byron Nelson. I mentioned how I don't like what I have in putting, but it's what I'm going with for this week. So it's 5%. I'm not very confident in. If I need more easy to par filters, I talked Monday how I thought it was going to be the filter that I would use the most. It's the one that has the biggest weight because of the birdies are better. But if I need to, change these filters to easy to par, of course I don't have any around the green. If that's a bigger factor than I think it's going to be, if procs matters, if 200 plus procs matters more. So there's some possibilities as to what the weaknesses of the mixed condition model are this week. All right. With that, let's go ahead and move to Microsoft Excel and the reveal of my rankings for this week. And before we get into it, this is a reminder that my rankings are purely by numbers, and that is inclusion of the pure analytics from Fantasy National, the course value or my attempt at giving a player a value based on how well they've played the course previously, and their percent owned. So I am not factoring in a player's tee time or their perceived good/bad draw into my rankings. I do that on my own. This is just purely from a numbers standpoint. By the analytics, my top 10 goes as follows. Tom Kim is my number one player this week. Scotty Scheffler, Ryan Palmer, K.H. Lee, Davis Riley, Hideki, Joseph Bramlett, Matt Kuchar, Tom Hoge, and Tyrrell Hatton are my top 10. I am very surprised with Ryan Palmer, but it makes sense. A Texas native. He probably knows how to play these courses well. And in the wind, you see he has played TPC Craig Ranch pretty darn well. Number 2 in birdies are better when it's easy. Number 2 in opportunities. That's just off your screen. So he's number 2 in opportunities on long courses. So when you actually dig into the numbers, it made a lot of sense at why Ryan Palmer was very high in the rankings. Matt Kuchar, K.H. Lee, your 2-time defending champ, the only winner on this course. Tyrrell Hatton's the only player that has not played the course that is in the top 10, but you see he is 6th by the numbers in Fantasy National, getting a whole lot of love. Number 3 in irons, top 10 in par 5s. Also top 10 in opportunities on long courses. Tyrrell Hatton should be pretty darn good this week. So I don't have a whole lot of surprise here, at least in my estimation, or what I thought my top 10 was going to be. Heads up on Taryn earlier this week. Absolutely, Logan. No, not a problem. I'm happy to help. And if you haven't seen, there have been 4 more field changes since Monday evening. Mark Hubbard, Alex Smalley, JJ Spawn, and Hank Lebiota. have withdrawn since Monday night's show. Hank I last checked around, I guess, 7 Eastern. So there might have been some more, but I start prepping for the show around 7 or a little bit after. But those 4 players, Mark Hubbard, Alex Smalley, JJ Spawn, and Hank Lebioda, have withdrawn since Monday night's show. But thanks for jumping in chat. I really appreciate it. And I'm always happy to help, especially with things that are factual. I try to help with rankings and my analysis and stuff. Sometimes, as longtime viewers can tell you, sometimes it's good and sometimes not, but it is what it is. Thanks for jumping in chat. So yeah, there's my top 10 for this week. Let's sort the price board and get a feel for where our fellow contestants are going and how we can maneuver around the chalk. So we want to sort on salary. Okay, in the 10Ks, we have 2 players now that Jordan Spieth has withdrawn. We have Scotty Scheffler at 11.9 and Tyrrell Hatton at 10.1. A huge gap here between 2 players. Now, you see Scotty Scheffler, number 2 overall in my rankings. He's number 1 just purely by numbers in Fantasy National. He's getting hurt by the fact that he is the projected most owned player for obvious reasons. Number 1 in birdies are better, strokes gained approach, par 5s. He's number 1 in par 4s. There's a lot of reason to like Scotty Scheffler. A weak field, he's from Texas. All of that is together. I am going to fade Scotty Scheffler this week, and it's a dangerous game I'm playing. I understand that. But the price, really darn high. There are other players that I like enough, and he has not played TBC Craig Ranch great. He hadn't played it poorly, but he hadn't played it great. And with the PGA Championship next week, I saw, and I wish I could give proper credit. I can't remember where I saw it or who posted it, but I saw somebody post Scotty Scheffler's results the week before a major, and he has, I think, a 3rd and an 11th, and then a whole lot of middling and miscuts, middling finishes and miscuts. So while you could argue the same for Tyrrell Hatton, you could argue the same for anyone who's playing in the PGA Championship next week, I have a gut feeling that Scotty Scheffler might not play his best this week with the PGA Championship next week. And the fact that he is the most projected owned player helps me really commit to the fade of Scotty Scheffler. Look, I'm sure I'll have him once just to have the coverage, but Scotty Scheffler's a fade for me. A lot of it being that I think Tyrrell Hatton's going to be pretty good, although 19.5 is still a lot of ownership on a player. So there have been many lineups that I have pondered where I just ignore the 10s completely. If I come into the 10Ks, I'm much more comfortable going to Hatton than I am to Scheffler for the reasons I've mentioned. And like I said, I still think Hatton is going to be pretty good this week. But I'm not crazy about the 10Ks this week at all. I'm just not. And that tells you kind of the lineups that I'm building for this week. Let's move to the 9s. We've got Hideki, Tom Kim, Jason Day, KH Lee, Adam Scott, Siwoo Kim, and Matt Kuchar. All right. And before I forget, it also helps knowing that Scotty Scheffler has the bad end of the draw, too. There's a lot of things that are helping push me in that direction. Hideki has the good end of the draw. I think Hideki is going to be pretty darn good. We looked Monday evening at the end of the show, at my early look file, or what I call the early look file, where I gather all of the stats a player has accrued at the specific course, very, very rarely are you going to get Hideki positive in putting. And he's been positive in his two tournaments here at TPC Craig Ranch. Whenever Hideki is positive, you've got to take notice. Now, he has been a little bit worse than what you would think Hideki would be in terms of the ball striking. Par 5s are great, but they're not elite like you would think from Hideki, especially in this field. So he'll have to clean that up a little bit. But I'm also getting a little bit of ownership discount, it looks like, from Scheffler, from Tyrrell Hatton, from Tom Kim. So I have no reason to ignore Hideki, even if he is still technically chalky at 17.5%. Day Scott on Y Stallings Higgs is a rough draft. See, I like a lot of those, and we'll get to them eventually as we move through the price board. There is one player that I am completely out on of those 6, but for the most part, I do like the majority of what you have there. But elsewhere in the 9Ks, Tom Kim, my number one player. Look, he's got the bad end of the draw, but I still think he's going to play pretty well. I'm going to have some Tom Kim. He's the number one player in my rankings. I think he's going to play pretty well this week. Jason Day should be okay. I'm a little concerned, though. He is 1 for 2 here. He has missed the cut before at TPC Craig Ranch, and his opportunities on long courses, he doesn't play the longest of courses well. Now, he generally plays the Farmers well, but Farmers is difficult. TPC Craig Ranch is easy, so I do have a little bit of caution with Jason Day in that regard, but his bent putting, always very, very good. Birdies are better when it's easy, great. It's not elite, but great. So I think he'll be fine. I do worry about giving himself enough opportunities, especially since he has not played this event the best in the past. Cage Lee, what's there to say, the 2-time defending champion. He has the bad end of the draw. He's the 2-time defending champion. I'm sure I'll have a little bit to Cage Lee. As much as I'm generally not an Adam Scott guy, things line up pretty well for him this week. He's on the good end of the draw. The irons are much better than what I think these numbers are. He's 4th in opportunities on long courses. Hits plenty of greens on long courses. Hey, Ray, am I mixing up him with somebody? Because, in fact, I have the leaderboard up here right now. Oh, yes. So who's in the group with Scheffler? So you are correct, Ray. Thank you for the correction. Who's in the group with Scheffler? J-Day. Okay. And KH Lee. Okay. My apologies. I was misspeaking. You are correct. So that gives me even more reason, even though he's going to be very chalky, he is the number one player in my rankings, so I'll even more reason to use him. J-Day's on the bad end of the draw. Adam Scott's on the good end of the draw. And Matt Kuchar is on the good end of the draw. Now, Matt Kuchar, you wouldn't think of playing long courses well. He certainly plays easy courses well, but he has actually played long courses well, and you see his course value here. He has been very good at TPC Craig Ranch. Number 5 in par 5 scoring this week. Top 25 in good drives gained. He's an excellent bent grass putter. A lot of things are lining up for Kuchar. I am pretty surprised that he is only 14.5%. I would have thought Kuchar would have been in the top 3 to 4 players in projected ownership. 14.5 is a lot. Don't get it twisted. That's a lot of ownership, but compared to a 19% on Tom Kim, a 17.5 on Hideki, Scotty and Tyrrell, I really like Matt Kuchar if I'm getting this much of an ownership discount off of those other guys, especially with the fact that he's got the good end of the draw. That one I do know Although I will double check it because I've already misspoken once. But Matt Kuchar does have the good end of the draw. He is teeing off early in the morning with Wise and Stallings. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players in the nines. I can make an argument to use them. Like I said, I don't mind Jason Day. I'm a little bit cautious with the fact that he's on that bad end of the draw. He doesn't give himself the most opportunities on long courses. He has missed the cut here before at TBC Craig Ranch, so it gives me a little bit of pause. KH Lee, I imagine he'll be pretty darn chalky. The two-time champion certainly works in his favor, but a bad end of the draw works against him, absolutely. So in the 9Ks, look, Hideki, I really like, especially the fact that he's been positive in putting here. So I'm going to have Hideki. I'm going to have Tom Kim. He's, for the reasons I've mentioned plenty of times before. I'm going to have KH Lee. He's the two-time champion, although I'm going to try to limit my use of him. I'm not an Adam Scott guy, but things line up for Adam Scott, and I am all over Matt Kuchar this week. I'm really hoping he's at 14.5%. I imagine he's going to be more owned than that, but I'm all over Matt Kuchar. The only player we haven't talked about in the 9Ks is Siwoo. I think it's fine. I think it's okay. He has to be a lot better at the par fives. He hasn't played TPC Craig Ranch all that well, but I think it's fair. I think he'll be fine. He's just not awe-inspiring. Moving to the 8s. Seamus Power, Matt McNeely, Taylor Montgomery, Ben On, Tom Hoagie, Minwoo Lee, Aaron Wise, Stefan Yeager, Adam Hadwin, and Christian Mazepin. All right, so let me talk about Aaron Wise first, get him out of the way. For those who might be new-ish to the channel, he has been a FOMO of mine for a long time. So speaking specifically to DFS, it is more easy for me to get away from Aaron Wise because I'm always going to have that FOMO wager on him. So I want to make that very clear for anyone who is new-ish to the channel. Having said that, he's coming off a little bit of a break, citing mental health. Remember when Matthew Wolff did that? He came back and he played pretty darn well for a little bit before going to live. I'm not saying Aaron Wise is going to do the same, but it's not unheard of to play well from an extended break. So I think Aaron Wise could be pretty darn good, especially since he has the good draw. He's very, very good when it's easy, getting birdies when it's easy. His irons haven't been good, but again, this is only being gathered from 2023. He's a much better iron player than this. Approach Aaron Wise how you wish. If you are scared off by the long layoff and all that, then absolutely. I don't blame you one bit. And in fact, in DFS, it's easier for me to be off of him because I always have that win wager. Somebody else that is probably going to get quite a bit of attention that I'm nowhere near is Seamus Power. He has played TPC Craig Ranch very, very well. He plays easy courses extremely well. I think he might be the number one strokes gained total player in easy rounds. But there are a lot of concerning metrics here for Power. Almost outside the top 100 in this field in iron play. He hasn't taken advantage of the par fives this calendar year. Good drives gained on long courses, not his best. I've got a lot of concern with Seamus Power, so Power is a full fade for me. So if Seamus Power plays well, I will lose. This is where I'm kind of taking a little bit of a stand. I'm taking a semi-stand with Scotty Scheffler, fading him. I'm sure I'll have him once just to have the coverage, but I am full fading Seamus Power. McNeely rates well, but again, I've talked about it with McNeely and Aaron Wise and Matt Fitzpatrick. Like, where are these guys with their injuries? He's got some elite statistics. Birdies are better on easy. Par fives are great. He's third in this field in bent putting. I just don't know where his health is. So I'm going to be cautious with McNeely. Tom Hoge's another player that I am kind of out on this week. You see the performance here at TBC Craig Ranch has not been good. He's going to be pretty highly owned. He plays easy courses well, but he kind of struggles when it's long, especially giving himself opportunities. The greens in regulation, for as good of an iron player Tom Hoge is, he's very middling on long courses. You think about his win, where did it come? At Pebble Beach, a very short course. He's not a very good putter in general. So I am off of Tom Hoge this week as well. So Power and Hoge are two players that I'm going to be off on. Even though Hoge is ranked 9th in my rankings, he also has the bad end of the draw. And I will double check that, but I'm pretty sure he has the bad end of the draw. Helps if I could spell. Yeah, he's teeing off middle of the afternoon round tomorrow. So that also helps in the sense that I don't really want to mess with Tom Hoge unless I really, really feel like I need to. I am trying to focus on players who are on the good side of the draw. Taylor Montgomery, boy, he plays easy courses well. He's a very good putter, but man, his irons are awful. They have been awful. And how is he going to putt if he doesn't give himself opportunities? So I don't know how much I'm going to use Taylor Montgomery either. Good drives gained, really bad. Greens, really bad. I'm not there with Montgomery. The other player in the eights that I can see myself gravitating towards is Christian Bezadenhout. He's played very well here. His irons have gotten better in 2023. They're not great, but they've gotten better. He'll have to play better on the par fives without a doubt. But a lot of Bezadenhout's appeal, he is the number one putter on bent in this field. So I can see myself gravitating to Seabez a little bit for DFS. So not a lot in the eights that I'll be using. Might dabble in McNeely once or twice. Ben-On's fine. I imagine he'll be a little bit more owned than 9%. But Ben-On should be fine. I'll probably dabble a little bit with Wise. And then I'll use Bezadenhout. But really, the 8Ks I'm kind of ignoring as well, along with the 10Ks. Let's move to the upper sevens. Davis Riley, great player, bad draw. It's as simple as that. Great player, bad draw. Don't like Davis Riley this week, even though all of his metrics are solid. Sometimes it's just hard to overcome having the worst end of the draw. Joseph Bramlett, not the best in the wind, and with the amount of wind that looks to be in the forecast, especially for the weekend, I have my concerns. Now, I do think he will make the cut, but for DFS, considering how projected owned he is, you have to have confidence that he'll be top 10, top 15, and I don't. I think he'll be a pretty middling player this week. So for me, that's a easier fade. I really like Scott Stallings this week. You see his performance here at TBC Craig Ranch has been solid, and he's looking to be getting a little bit ignored. The 2023 form is not great. I'll give you that. Irons haven't been good. Par 5 scoring hasn't been good. He's pretty darn good when it's easy. Number 6 in putting. He hits plenty of greens. He's good enough on 200 plus procs. I like Scott Stallings, and that's where I'm willing to gain quite a bit of my uniqueness on the rest of the contestants here with Scott Stallings. Sam Stevens getting a lot of love. He's never played this course, so not sure how he's going to adjust to it. My concern is he doesn't gain a lot of birdies, especially when it's easy. Look, the 2023 form is fantastic. I've been on Sam Stevens for a little while now. top 20 in irons, top 10 in par 5s, top 10 in opportunities. But the most important thing here, TPC Craig Ranch, you got to go low. And he has shown in his short time on the PGA Tour, he doesn't go low, especially when it's easy. So, got a little bit of cause for concern there. Take a look at Luke List. This is a ball striking course. He's a ball striker. Now, I mean, the obvious statements are obvious. He is a piss poor putter. It's just no other way around it. But putting is fickle. It can come and go. I really like Luke List for the ball striking, and I really like the fact that he's a 2% owned. Now, he has shown that he doesn't love TPC Craig Ranch, but I'm willing to take that chance, especially at 2% owned. Michael Kim, if you were not here for the beginning of the show, he was one of the lowest in terms of wind, strokes gained total in the wind, and strokes gained total when it's easy. So he's coming off a fantastic Wells Fargo, no doubt about it. He's got good iron form. He gives himself opportunities. But be aware, he is very bad, or has been very bad in the wind, and he's been very bad, as you can see here, when a round's easy. So I want no part of Michael Kim. Moving into the low sevens. Dylan Wu, very, very chalky. I think he's going to play pretty darn well this week. I hate to see that he's at 16%. I love the player. Hate the amount of ownership. Same thing with Nate Lashley. Love the player this week. Hate the ownership. Almost top 5 in irons and in par 5s here. So I'm not going to be able to get away from Nate Lashley. But you have enough reason to do so. That's a lot of chalk, but I'm not going to be able to get away from Nate Lashley. I'll use him. I talked about how I'm not there with Ryan Palmer. It was a little surprising to see him third. You see the metrics, they're great. I'm just not there with Ryan Palmer, and I believe he's on the bad end of the draw. I know his wind play is pretty suspect. Even though he's a Texas native, he's not been the best in the wind. Ryan Palmer's on the bad end of the draw. So, yeah. Bad end of the draw plus a little bit of suspect wind play. Don't like it. In the low sevens, I've been gravitating towards David Lipsky. Only at 2.5%. Iron play. Very, very, very important here. He's generally not a good putter, but he's actually been solid on bent. Hits plenty of greens on long courses. I think David Lipsky will be pretty serviceable. So I've been gravitating towards him in the low sevens. Vincent Norman at 72, I like quite a bit. Although his drawback is that he is not good in the wind. But I've been gravitating towards Vincent Norman a little bit. Trey Mullinax, I think, should be good here. He plays easy courses very, very well. I mean, that's where he excels. That's where he got his wind, was the Barbasol. Very, very easy course. But he has not put it together this year so far. It would also help if I could spell. Mullinax. He is on the good side of the draw. Take that for what you will. If you're using Trey Mullinax, you're using it on the fact that it is a play on how easy TPC Craig Ranch is. So I can understand coming to Trey Mullinax a little bit. All right. I mentioned on social media that I had a couple of spicy 6K plays for you all. And I don't want to disappoint you, but let me give you a couple of honorable mentions here before I really dive into the 6Ks, because I do have two players that I'm excited about. Honorable mention I want to give to Kevin Chappell. And I thought he was at 67. He's at 66. He's getting a little bit of love. You're using Kevin Chappell for one simple reason. He devours par 5s, and that is what you have to take advantage of here at TPC Craig Ranch. Look, every 6K player, and sometimes even into the 7s, are going to have warts. But to get a guy that, just demolishes par 5s in the 6Ks, if you're trying to squeeze in a Scotty Scheffler, or if you're trying to squeeze in and get greedy 3 9s, 2 9s, and an upper 8, take a look at Kevin Chappell. I don't hate it by any means. He's pretty darn good on long courses as well. If I scroll over here, 47th, 52nd on those two metrics with long course filter, and then the other long course filter greens, he's 17th. So he plays long courses pretty darn well, or at least has since 2021. Obviously, he's going to have to get his birdies, but you're playing Kevin Chappell on the par 5s, and that's what it's about. So take a look at Kevin Chappell. The two players I really, well, actually, I take that. One more honorable mention is Kevin Roy, 8% owned, so very, very chalky for the 6Ks, but a play that I am not going to be getting away from. Love Kevin Roy this week. Top 5 in irons, top 30 in par 5s, two things that you really have to take advantage of or be good at here at TPC Craig Ranch. I've talked about how bent putting in general is fickle. If I'm going to use Luke List, I'll use Kevin Roy. Same kind of reasoning, and hoping he's has at least a decent putting week. Kevin Roy's also pretty darn good with his total procs and his long procs. So I really like Kevin Roy, but understand that he is very chalky by 6K standards. So if you're wanting to be unique, you might want to stay away from Kevin Roy. I just won't be able to. I'm comfortable using some uniqueness elsewhere in the 7s. Now, two players that I really want to bring to your attention. The first one, all the way down at 6,200, is, where'd he go? Roger Sloan. He is not even on the PGA Tour at the moment. He had his card, I believe it was last year. It might have been 2021, and then lost it. But he's been playing pretty darn well on the Korn Ferry Tour. And his time on the PGA Tour, look at these metrics on longer courses. Top 10 opportunities. He's 12th in greens. He's 28th in good drives gained on long courses. I am using the long course narrative with Roger Sloan. Look, he has played TPC Craig Ranch and it wasn't particularly stellar. I get it. He's not fantastic at getting birdies when it's easy. Sure. If you're ultra greedy, if you're really needing a price savings, I don't hate the idea of Roger Sloan. I wouldn't go and rush to use him in every single lineup, but I don't hate the idea of a Roger Sloan. But the one 6K play that I really want to highlight, I was going to highlight Kevin Roy until I realized he was 8% owned. So the next name, the other 6K play I really want to highlight for you all is Satoshi Kodaira. 4% owned. He's 2 for 2 here at TPC Craig Ranch at making the cut. The finishes aren't all that inspiring, but if you're coming down to the 6,400s, you're making a cut, you're pretty darn happy with it. Top 15 in this field in iron play. 35th in birdies or better when it's easy. 35th in par 5s. And first in good drives gained. He's going to hit the fairways. If he doesn't, his proximity and long iron proximity is very good. He's got a lot of warts, sure, par 4s, which I'm really high on Kodaira because I think the par 4s are a bit mitigated here. He's also atrocious on bent. I get it. But he's played long courses well. He's very good with 200 plus procs. He goes low when it's easy, or can go low when it's easy. Satoshi Kodaira, I can't say that he's core for me, but anytime I am even hovering in the 7,000 area, I'm looking for a reason to use Kodaira and spend $600 elsewhere. I really, really like Satoshi Kodaira this week. So take a long look at Satoshi Kodaira. And he'll be a player that, like Seamus Power and who else was it here? The Tom Hoagie. If those two, if Power and Hoagie play well, I'm going to lose. If Kodaira plays poorly, I'm going to lose. But I'm planting my flag there. All right, we've went for a little while. I've rambled on. Let's start making some lineups. Let's start with tiers for anyone who plays tiers contests, and then we'll move to Classic. Tier 1, we only have 2 players thanks to Jordan Spieth's withdrawal, Scotty Scheffler and Tyrrell Hatton. I'm actually going to go Tyrrell Hatton. I want what I perceive is going to be uniqueness from Scotty Scheffler. And again, I have a little bit of worry about Scotty Scheffler this week. It's just kind of a gut feeling. But give me Tyrrell Hatton in Tier 1. Tier 2, Hideki, Tom Kim, J-Day, K.H. Lee, and Siwoo Kim. Look, I think K.H. Lee is going to be a fine play. He is a little worrying considering he's got the bad end of the draw, but he's the two-time defending champion here. Hideki is a big risk in tiers, always because of the withdrawal and all that stuff. I like Hideki, but I'm not going to skip my number 1 player. So just give me Tom Kim in Tier 2, especially since I feel comfortable enough to take chalk since I think I'm getting a lot of uniqueness in Tyrrell Hatton. So I'll go Hatton Tier 1, Tom Kim Tier 2, Tier 3, Adam Scott, Matt Kuchar, Seamus Power, Matt McNeely, and Ben On. Again, he's probably going to be the chalkiest in this tier, but I am just really, really high on him, especially after seeing that he's got the good end of the draw. Give me Matt Kuchar in Tier 3. Tier 4, Taylor Montgomery, Tom Hoagie, Minwoo Lee, Aaron Wise, Stefan Jaeger, Adam Hadwin, and Christian Bezuidenhout. I'm going to go with Bezuidenhout. Montgomery is kind of interesting just because he can get so hot, but because of his volatility, because he relies on the putter, it's a all or nothing with Taylor Montgomery, and that's very dangerous to do in tiers. You like to do that in Classic when you're building GPPs, try to hit the home run. But in tiers, it can really burn you. Again, do what you want with Wise. I think he'll be a fine play, but treat him how you wish. So just give me Bezuidenhout in Tier 4. Tier 5, Davis Riley, Joseph Bramlett, Brandon Wu, Will Gordon, and Scott Stallings. I'm going to go with Scott Stallings picking up a bit of uniqueness. He's played this course very well previously. Just give me Scott Stallings. I like where he's sitting amongst these other players. And then finally, Tier 6, Vincent Norman, Austin Smotherman, Trey Mullinax, Andrew Novak, Doug Gim, and Adam Long. In the perfect world, I think that's all Tier 6. Yeah. In a perfect world, I would go with Vincent Norman. But he's got the bad end of the draw. He's teeing off in the afternoon tomorrow. Because of that, I think I might go Trey Mullinax and take a chance. But I think the best player in the field in Tier 6 is Vincent Norman this week. But I will go with Trey Mullinax, trying to play on the good side of the draw narrative. Okay, let's move to Classic, start making some lineups, figuring out where our contestants, or how our contestants, fellow contestants, are building their lineups and how we can maneuver around that. So the first question you got to ask, do you think most contestants are going to be playing Scotty Scheffler? And it looks like, at least per Fantasy National, they are. So I'm going to try to build a chalky lineup with and without Scotty Scheffler. So we'll start with that. And feel free to jump into chat with any questions. Player A versus player B, or maybe an area of the price board that you want to look at, or maybe a shell of a lineup. But I'm going to try to run through a couple of these, what I perceive are going to be chalky looking lineups, while you all post your questions. So we're going to start with Scotty Scheffler. At the bottom end here, really, Ryan Palmer at 71 at 10%. I mean, you could argue also that Kevin Roy at 8% could be the bottom of a lot of player or contestants lineups. I'm going to bottom out at Nate Lashley. It's going to be difficult to do since we have a 12K player, but I'm going to try to keep it at Nate Lashley because I don't know how much contestants are comfortable going into the 6Ks, especially in a weak field like this. So we'll go Nate Lashley. Dylan Wu also getting a whole lot of love in the low 7s. And then Eric Cole at the same price. So those two are probably interchangeable. Coming up to Sam Stevens. And looks like we got 8,000 per. 78. Brandon Wu's getting a little bit. This might not be the most chalky way to build this, but certainly. Oh shucks, I'm 100 over. Damn it. 81. No, it looks like I should have gone like Bezadenhout and Bramlett. That looks like it's going to be a little bit more. So Seabez and Bramlett. Yeah, 15.1. So this looks like a pretty darn common looking lineup that you would see in a big GPP for the AT&T Byron Nelson. Again, starting with Scheffler, and then having to drop all the way to Bezadenhout. Now, you might see some teams that are willing to drop to, say, maybe a Ryan Palmer. If they're going to the 6Ks, it'd be probably Kevin Roy, Kevin Chappell. But a pretty darn chalky team here. And then if our contestants are ignoring Scotty Scheffler, they're going probably Terrell Hatton, KH Lee we'll throw in this one. Might be a little bit too expensive, but we'll try Tom Hoagie. Yeah, we'd be able to fit this. I'll use Eric Cole instead of Dylan Wu just to use a different name. Actually, you know what? We're going to do both. Cole and Wu. This will leave $100 on the table, $200 on the table. Again, this will, Nate Lashley, Ryan Palmer, or whatever. But there's another very chalky looking lineup if players aren't going up to Scheffler. Going Terrell Hatton, KH Lee, Hoagie, or Stefan Jaeger in the third spot in the lineup. And then, depending on if they are coming down from Hoagie or, coming down to Kevin Roy, perhaps they're using somebody in the upper 7s. If they are, it'd be Bramlett or Sam Stevens, Brandon Wu, players like that. But two very, very chalky looking lineups there. All right, so let's figure out how we want to maneuver around this. And just like our fellow contestants, the first question you're going to ask yourself, are you going to use Scotty Scheffler? You're going to try to beat him. For me, I'm trying to beat him. But because of that, I will try to generate a lineup that uses him in case you are using him. So we'll start with Scotty. And again, I gave you a few players in the 6Ks. I'm going to bottom this team out at Trey Mullinax because I'm not sure how comfortable people are going into the 6Ks. I'm just crazy. I'm a masochist and all that stuff, so I don't mind it. But I will bottom this team out at Trey Mullinax. But because you've went Scotty Scheffler, it is very, very difficult to fit in another 9K or even an upper 8. If you are, I don't hate the idea of a bin on. Again, go Aaron Wise, use however you think. But if I've been going Scheffler, I've been trying to, run a gauntlet of, high to mid 7s. So we're going to go with a couple of different ways here. We'll start with, one of them will be pretty chalky, but I will go with Brandon Wu. I'll go Scott Stallings over Sam Stevens for the uniqueness. I don't hate S.H. Kim. Not in love with it, but I don't hate it. Luke List, also somebody that I am completely fine with, even with a very scary putter. And look at that. We have actually enough for 81, which is Hadwin. I'm not crazy about, but Zadenhout would be fine. So let's see how Zadenhout looks in this. Yeah. Thanks to Luke List and Trey Mullinax, we're using the most projected home player and are still under that 10% magic number. So you're looking at more than likely a unique lineup. Certainly not without risk. I mean, I really like Trey Mullinax on easy courses. Luke List's putter can always just cost him a tournament. But I think Scott Stallings is going to be pretty good this week. You know, use whoever else in the upper sevens you might like. I think Sam Stevens will be a little bit too chalky, but you know, I don't hate Joseph Bramlett. I don't hate Davis Riley, although Riley is in the bad end of the draw. So use how you use what you want in that regard. But more often than not, I've been ignoring not only Scheffler, but ignoring Tyrrell Hatton as well. I've been pretty comfortable starting with Hideki. He's played extremely well here. He's been positive putting at TPC Craig Ranch, and anytime Hideki's positive in putting, you got to take notice. So I'll go Hideki. And as much as I'm not an Adam Scott fan, everything lines up for him. So I'll go Hideki, Adam Scott. I'm going to get really greedy. Let's try Matt Kuchar in this. And I'm getting greedy because I know I'm comfortable going down into the sixes. Probably can't use Kevin Roy. He's probably going to be a little bit too much chalk, considering we're using Hideki, Scott, and Kuchar. So instead, as I mentioned, I've been looking for excuses to go to Satoshi Kodaira, gaining uniqueness, gaining some money savings to come in and maybe try to squeeze in another high-priced player, maybe like an Aaron Wise, Adam Hadwin for the bent putting, Minwoo Lee if you're there. I'm not, but you know, a very talented player, Scott Stallings. This leaves 7,300, where we've talked about a few players. Nate Lashley, very chalky. Looks like we could probably afford to take that. I wonder what that percentage is going to be. 11.5. It's a little heavy. I would feel okay submitting it. I'd want it to be a little bit lower. Vincent Norman, I like this week. If you're there with Ryan Palmer, I'm not, or I'm a little more gun shy about it, but maybe you're there with Ryan Palmer. I like David Lipsky. I think David Lipsky's going to be good. Let's throw in Lipsky in this and see where we sit. Yeah, same 9.7%. Taking a big chance with Kodaira, but Kodaira is 2 for 2 at making the cut here. And, you know, 3 players that are on the excellent side of the draw. That's one way I've been going about building lineups. That's actually the most common way I've been working with lineups. You know, substitute out Hideki. I'll use Tom Kim. I'll use KH Lee. I'll even come up to Tyrrell Hatton a time or two. But I've been generally trying to squeeze in as much in the 9s. I'm okay not using the 8s. If I do, you know, I might dabble with an Aaron Wise. I'll use a Zadenhout. Maybe a McNeely once, although I consider him more of a 9K since he's at 88. Just because there's a couple players in the 6s I like, and I feel like I have enough options in the low 7s. But that looks like it's going to do it for the DFS Tactics Show. P, Logan, Ray, thanks for jumping in chat. Always appreciated. Thanks for joining. And thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the video, commenting, subscribing. I always appreciate it. I'm not always right, but I'll own when I'm not, and hopefully I give you something that you can use in the week for your wagers, for your DFS contests, that you come out ahead, and that way I can shout you out next week on the initial research show for the next week's tournament, which next week's the PGA Championship. It'll be a big week. Big week in wagers and DFS and all that stuff. So would love to start the week off right, shouting out a lot of members of the community who had some success for the AT&T Byron Nelson. So for all of the wagers you've made this week for the Byron Nelson, for all the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Byron Nelson, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.